when we look at the foundation of coaching and relationships, it all comes down to trust. We need to be having the hard conversations. If you as a coach are underperforming, even if my decision is to choose to leave you as a coach, I should be having a conversation saying you're not meeting my expectations. And if you as an athlete are underperforming, then I should be having a conversation with you as a coach saying you're not meeting the expectations of the program, what's going on. Coaching isn't just filling in a form and tossing it over the fence. That's data entry. But what it comes down to is that relationship component.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Skip Hill, myself, Scott McNally, and we are joined by who I've always called change expert, Kait Dinunzio. Kait, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Guys, all of our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for additional savings. Go to supplementsource.ca if you're in Canada. You'll get great deals. They change week to week on short-dated label change products, stuff like that. And of course, thank you to everybody from Patreon. After this, Skip and I are going to knock out some Q&A. Andrew's not with us. He's got some business to attend to of his own. But of course, he'll be back. And Kait, I'm not even going to try to say it. What are we talking about today?
Oh, it's such a great question. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about how to be a better coach using social and emotional intelligence, and how to be a better athlete, how to come along the journey with your coach and communicate more effectively.
I like that. And
that's
some of you guys
because I'm a great coach, and my clients, they just don't communicate very effectively. It's all on them. So
sounds like an issue.
We've had Kait on a bunch of times now. And like, I've learned a lot from you over the years about like the stages of change, how to make like real big, deep changes in my life. You guys will remember her from Advices Radio if you've been following along. Yeah. So this would be kind of an evolution of that. And I just want to give you the floor. Because first of all, I mean, why do we have you here? Like, who are you to talk to us about this topic?
Well, I'm 15 years in the industry of bodybuilding, and I'm a national level competitor who has no desire to become a pro. I really enjoy competing, and I enjoy competing wherever and whenever I want. I'm a female bodybuilder. I tried my foot in women's physique by accident in 2023, won an overall title there, but didn't love it. Ended up coming in trying to do it again this year for some stage time. And yeah, it's fine. It's just not where I belong. So, but that being said, I think that the work that I do, and, you know, I'm a global advisor in the space of social and emotional intelligence and artificial intelligence. And I've been listening to a lot of the podcasts between, you know, Think Big and a couple of others, and we're seeing some really big fallout from the competitive season, from the Olympia. And we're seeing people who are just behaving in a way where I just think that we have more opportunity to grow and examine ourselves in how we choose to show up for our coaches or as coaches.
Okay.
If anybody is going, like they're listening and they're like, why are they not talking about gear and training and everything? Here, I'll put it to you simple. Because she's smart and I am a good representation of the viewers. Not as smart. It's
and we'll get back to the gear. We got plenty. We got our whole
we'll get back
to talk about gear.
Right.
Not a trend.
But in the meantime, if most of the people listening think, well, I don't want to be too condescending, are coaches. I said think they're coaches because some do, but whatever. A lot of coaches listening. If you want to be a better coach, this isn't just about getting results. We're in a time now where coaches get results. Yeah. There's more to it than that. And if you're like, I don't need that, go ahead. We'll see how far down the coaching path you go and how successful you are.
Well, and the other thing, you know, I had somebody in a sports community, like I've worked in professional sports for a long time. And I had somebody one time in a sports community say, we're in the space of playing football, not in having meetings. And I was like, you know what? Oil and gas and global economies are in the space of making money, and they still see the value in what I bring. And in fact, I just make them more successful. That's what I do. right?
Yeah.
You know, and frankly, the other side of it is I work behind the scenes with a number of pro athletes at any given time in the IFBB. And I do not talk about that because it's not my space to talk about it. And I'm not a coach that goes out and like, I don't build diet plans. I don't build, you know, fitness programs. I program myself. But never anybody else. That's not my hedgehog. My hedgehog, what I do, what I love is helping people realize their greatest potential. And you guys say it all the time. Your biggest limiting factor is right here. It's between your ears. It is not your body. It is not where you inject. It is not the things you put in your mouth. It is between your ears.
Not the trend, Skip. I thought it was the trend this whole time. I thought it was like just a little more trend.
So I think, you know, if we were to step back and really look at it from a coaching perspective, and I do work with a lot of coaches as well, and I help with business planning and do things like that because that's my wheelhouse. When we look at the foundation of coaching and relationships, it all comes down to trust. Do I trust the person that I'm coming to? I think right now, coaches are a dime a dozen. Somebody's done a contest. Guess what? I'm a coach. I did it once. I went to a competition once. I can do this. I can coach. These people are going and they're building plans on AI and they're applying them. And I think, you know, we see that even on some of the Think Big Facebook group. I mean, there's this one guy on there and I can't even engage with his posts because it's just, he's just there trying to make people angry. And, you know, AI is not going to know anything other than what's published on the internet and what other people are feeding into it. And it's leaking out to itself. Right. And so
that can be good and that can be bad.
Yeah, totally.
So you're going to get a mixture. You're not going to always get the right answer out of AI, at least not yet.
No, you're not. And it won't be consistent for a really long time. Can you get some information out of it? Yeah, absolutely you can. But should it be contrary to what it is that your coach is giving you? Well, no. But then the question is, why are you going there to break your plan if you are paying someone to help you program? It's because you don't trust them, or because you're seeing the shiny object over here and that shiny object is very attractive. But, you know, to go back to a Dr. Scottism, bioindividuality means that I'll never look like my coach, 100% full stop. I mean, she's a genetic freak, right? And the other side of that is I also know that I have limitations on what I'm willing to do and what I'm willing to put in my body. This matters to me. Right. And it's a part of, you know, knowing where those boundaries live, and not to suggest that, you know, this doesn't matter to my coach, because it does. And she's a beautiful human being. She's a genetic freak. But some of the other women, if I were to try and go for a pro card, I would look like a complete dork because they're these, you know, beautiful, huge women. And then I would look like, you know, a little bag of antlers standing beside them. Right. And you know, I'm a realist, right? So when we take a step back and we look at like the coaching relationship, trust is built on three things: credibility, reliability, and intimate connection, like getting to know people, right? Okay. And it's all valued over your own self-orientation. So I'm not doing these things for you, I'm doing them, or I'm not doing these things for me, I'm doing them for you. This is why, like, you know, when you're like scrolling and you see somebody who's like, you know, client spotlight, and it's not really about the client in a lot of cases. When you post like when you post like Dick Skin UC Suma, that's like admiration. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like that's admiration. That's not you doing client spotlight. Let's look at this person. They ate the food I told them to eat and they did the things that I said that they should do. It's like, what? Stop it. Like build different content. When you have people who've done one competition and they're stealing plans from the Andrews of the world, like I think on like 2 weeks ago or last week, there was an episode you guys published and he said he got one of his own plans back. Yeah. That's not credibility, right? Yeah. And, you know, so then I think about it and it's like, I look at around this table and you see decades of experience. You guys even broadcast that. You say between us, there's probably 40 or 50 years worth of knowledge, 65 if you count all of Skip's. And that's just Skip. Look at it.
A few. She's been here 5 minutes, Skip. She's already ripping into you.
Exactly.
It's what we do. Canadians, we chirp. So it's how do you go about building those things? And so this year I went through contest prep. It was great. But I worked with Dr. Scott for a couple of years, and one of the things he taught me was to do a prep project. So I wrote a book this year. That's what I did. And we're in pre-publication right now. And one of the things that I did was I actually created a new version of the trust equation. And so the trust equation, that as I've designed it, is psychological safety. We're in an environment where we're always comparing ourselves to other people. A lot of us are probably bodybuilding out of survival or pain or something. Like for me, I know bodybuilding saved my life, right? And then, we look at those. And so psychological safety is number one. If someone's going to break your program and not tell you about it, why are they doing that? Because they don't feel that they're psychologically safe enough to come and have a conversation with you to say, I don't understand this, or I don't agree with it, or I saw my friend do this, because they're going to get maybe a snarky answer back, right? The second piece of it is presence. These things have made us horrible humans, right? I mean,
for the audio listeners, phones, right?
Phones, yeah. Sorry, I only watch video these days. But we are not present with people. And, I think I told you guys a story before we jumped on. Presence doesn't necessarily just mean that I'm present when you're talking to me or I'm at the show. Like, it's how you communicate with somebody. You have 4 clients competing in one day. You tell them, I have 3 other athletes that are competing. I'm going to talk to you at these intervals, or you can expect to hear from me at this point. And when you're with them, be with them. Don't be, I can do one thing, I'm listening. No, you're not. The brain can't multitask. That's not a thing. You think you're doing 2 things at once, but you're just doing 2 things really shitty, right?
Yeah. And if you are able to multitask, you're also giving the signal to the client in front of you that you're not invested.
Bingo.
So there you go.
The lack of presence.
That comes back to what you're saying about the relationship and everything else. I'm trying not to talk very much because a lot of the information that you're giving is awesome. So I'll try to pull back if I.
No, please. I want to have that dialogue, because I think, you're bringing like decades of experience into the conversation as well. And you see it. And, so the third piece that I've put into the trust equation reimagined is resonance. And that is to say, I'm going to take a step back and not allow it to become about me. Humility as a coach, when you're building people up and you're lifting them from the depths of where they are and you're making them their best selves, whatever that looks like, whether it's on a stage or not, it feels really good. And it's always like, I always tell people, there are 2 things I love, and that's winning and making money. And I am really good at both of them. And so I'm going to be cocky about those kinds of things, but I'm not going to do it when I'm coaching Skip, right? Your success is obviously my success if I get you there. But at the end of the day, it really isn't about me when it comes down to helping someone manage a change or coaching a leader or doing something to that degree. And so this is where it gets hard, because everything about social media is big dick energy. Wherever anybody goes, it's about egos, right? And it's not about, because it's a promotion. Right? It's all about self-promotion. And so when you're highlighting and sharing about your athletes and you're giving them props and you're having conversations, are you doing it with a sense of resonance? And are you doing it with a sense of presence? And those things matter to people. And the problem is, in our current state, our current day and age, we are not present with each other and we do not have emotional connections. And so, even if we were to apply those 2 trust models to some of the stuff we're seeing in industry, I think you would see it and you could dissect it. Like, I mean, you look at, the Kyle Nick thing, you look at the Tuttle Hollingshead thing. If I had enough knowledge, I could tell you exactly where the fractures are.
Okay.
Well, lack of trust for starters. I mean, that's at the top of the list, or am I?
No, but now take it even down to a more cellular level of trust. Is it a credibility thing? Is it a reliability thing? Or is it an emotional connection thing? Right. Or is it a psychological safety thing? Is it a presence thing? Or is it a resonance thing? And so if I were to say with certain elements of both of those, it could probably be an intimate connection. So that personal very personal connection, like I know you're here to support me. It could be a question of resonance, and it could be certainly could be a question of credibility because of the length of time someone has been in industry or the number or type of athletes that you're working with. You know, your first Olympia athlete, you maybe don't have as much credibility to make a mistake and bring someone's peak in even slightly off. Right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true versus if it were, say, Chris Aceto or something. It's like, well, we know that he's already done this 1,000 times, you know, or
right,
more.
And that comes back to the reputation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm thinking, okay, the relationship thing is important. I mean, I talked about this years ago because, again, a lot of coaches, we were building that industry, the giant sea of turds, as I refer to it. With the online training community. And I was trying to tell people, again, people can get results. There are a lot of coaches who can get results. So then it comes down to what methods do you align with and the relationship that you have with your coach and the coach has with you. Yeah. Are they invested? Are they, is what they're saying? And, you know, the other part is kind of funny too, is you can't feign sincerity. Like people will see through, your clients will see through you like you're a sheet of glass. It's just not, it doesn't work. So you're either sincere and you have that relationship, and I think that, again, that feeds the trust. But there's the argument too that in prep, when you're dealing with a lot of prep clients, and I can say this from experience because I used to do primarily prep in the past, like 95% prep. I mean, that's how I got into and known in the bodybuilding industry. And I pulled away from that because my personal experience was I was building those relationships and they were sincere. And then the game started of, well, I took second, even though I'm in my greatest shape and I'm moving on. Yeah. That was one of the reasons, because all of a sudden you no longer have that relationship. The other thing, though, is everything could go right and they go on. But the other part is because now everyone's a coach, it increases the revolving door aspect of the coach-client relationship because they want to learn a little bit from everybody. Yeah. So you may have the relationship with them, but then they want to learn from someone else. And I get it. Sure. I understand it. But that's what made me pull away from it because I thought to myself, and you know, there has to be some vulnerability here. You got to be insightful as a coach to be able to really question, what part do I play in this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in everything, really. I mean, you can say, oh, a client screwed up. He did this. He was supposed to do that. Well, what part did I play in it? Maybe you didn't play any part at all, but the questioning of what part, if any, did I play? So then that becomes this revolving door. And I started thinking to myself, man, I already have this really good relationship with my wife that I have to work for because it's a marriage. I don't want to have to work this hard. And then I'm turning around and I'm getting what it feels like emotion. I'm getting crapped on. Yeah. So I pulled away from it. And that is a big reason as to why I do a lot of, and I don't even want to use the term Gen Pop because they're not Gen Pop. Yeah. Gen Pop to me is the average Joe. But these are people who work out. It's important to them. It's a lifestyle, or it was before, then career and family got in the way and they got sidetracked and they're coming back to it, that sort of thing. That demographic is easier to build relationships with than prep. Now, I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent here and you want to pull me back in.
No,
because that may be the case.
If nothing else, Skip, it's interesting you say that. Just like on a completely personal note, while I was training today and I knew we were going to have this conversation, I literally was thinking of you and thinking about how you did pull away from prepping as many people going to more quote unquote Gen Pop. Literally that question came in my head because I've kind of started in the last couple of years lean toward getting more satisfaction out of my relationships with people who are non-competitors. And I had that thought to myself and I thought, I wonder why Skip had made that change years back, knowing that now you have gotten into more prep again.
Yep. And that's exactly why. And it also creates, and from a business standpoint, I mean, anybody with basic business acumen has to know, well, geez, client retention's kind of important. Yeah. And with that client retention, you have that ability to build those relationships. You're not forcing it. They just happen organically. You know, there are plenty of people that I work with, maybe not plenty, but there are some that I work with that I don't have that connection with. But it's more because they don't want it versus me. And coming back to what you said, who's it about? It's not about the coach cramming a relationship down their throat or having this rapport. It either comes together organically or it doesn't. And as a coach, that's for that's for you to read. The cool thing is, from a business standpoint, here's the thing. And everybody will go, oh, everything's about money. Well, they may not say it, but that's what a lot of people think. It's all about the money. The money will be there if you're doing your job with sincerity and again, the trust and every. Just do your job. Know your job. Know your position. Be sincere. And the money will come. But I do say a lot of people are hyper focused on, and I know I was at first too. So we got just getting into it. Paid, I can, I can see that. And the easy money, the novelty of it. Oh my gosh, I get to sit in Starbucks and play on my laptop and pretend that I'm a businessman and that type of thing.
Businessman.
It's like eventually the novelty will wear off. Not that it isn't enjoyable, but careful what you wish for, because at some point it turns into work. Work in the sense that you are obligated. You have this obligation to your clients. They're paying you, and if they're paying you good money, even more of a reason that this is an obligation. You don't have. I go to Disney and I'm working. My kids are sleeping. It's 4 a.m. I have client work to do. Not, well, I don't know why you're bothering me because I'm at Disney with my kids. Clients don't give a shit. What kind of a relationship and rapport are you building?
Yeah.
If they expect that you can go on vacation and do all these things, 7 times a year, and they're going to be cool with that. I could go on and on about this because I have very strong feelings about it.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just a quick shout out to True Nutrition. I figured I'd bring you to the home gym here, so welcome. And I just wanted to show you my order. So nothing big deal. I've got a few pounds of the cold filtered whey iso. I'm a big fan of the cookie butter flavor. I've been on this year. This has been my favorite, but they've got a bunch of different flavors. So if you're interested in something else, just check them out. It's a very light protein overall. It's not going to bloat your digestion down. It's not going to cause a bunch of water retention. This is the kind of protein that I suggest to people who are doing a contest prep. They've got all your basic bodybuilding supplements like creatine. They've got great intra-workout, highly branched cyclic dextrin, which is the high end. And then they've got the cheaper stuff like Carbo Load, like anybody can afford that. And of course, use our code THINK. It'll get you 10% off. They really kicked up. It used to only be 5%. Now you get 10% off if you use the code. And it throws some money our way too, so it definitely helps the podcast out a ton. Might be a buck here and there, but if you guys all use the code, it definitely adds up. And you have been using the code, so thank you for that. Let's get back to the podcast, but thank you for hanging out with me here in the home gym.
Well, and so you should. I mean, it is a reliability factor, right? So you've just touched on two of the most important parts of that base trust equation. And then you hit on the reimagined one, which is resonance. And I think it's not just about coaches showing up differently. It's about athletes showing up differently. I had no idea that every other athlete on my coach's roster did not provide the same level of data and feedback, because she sends me an email and says, these are the 8 questions that I need. And the last question is, tell me all about your week. What were your wins? What were your losses? So she actually opens a little journal up for me, which is fabulous. I love that. Not every coach loves that. We talked about that earlier. I've actually left a coach who did that. And you guys were both like, yeah, we would never want an email that long. Great. Send us the bullet points. What do we need to know? Be done with it. Right. And that's
I'm actually good with a lot of information for what it's worth. But I'd rather have more and put it to the side. Go ahead.
Do you want to extraneous information though? Like when I say extraneous, I don't. I want to know what the facts are. If it takes me, reading 2 paragraphs to find the details I need to coach you, then it's slowing me down and confusing me, and I may miss the key critical points. I might understand what your stress level's like and aspects like that, but it kind of gets diluted. I'm almost leaning toward a check-in system where I can have somebody fill out a form each week.
That's exactly.
And I have a template type of format.
I have a template too, but they don't always follow it. So I need. I'm thinking of like an online thing where they just fill in the blanks. You know what I mean? Just that way, because I could. At the end of the day, I want to be able to help people in the way that they want to be able to help. But at the end of the day, I want them to primarily, the number one thing is that I can get them the best results possible, no matter what. Like, that's what I really want for somebody. I don't want to, I don't want to compromise my ability to help them.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I'm okay. And we have a lot of parallels. This might be one where I veer off from you and Andrew, and that is, I don't want to get caught up in the semantics of it because it sounds bad when I say it, but I'm more patient and flexible, I think, with the extra. I know. No, but let me finish because it'll make sense and it won't sound so bad. Yeah, but it won't. And I think it's kind of surprising coming from me of the three of us.
Right.
But hear me out. This is really what I'm saying is the patience of give me more. My thought process is give me more. Give me all the information. If I don't need it, I'll set it aside. Yeah. And if it causes me that extra work and time, and it does. I mean, I have some clients who are very lengthy with their information, but that's okay. And I have clients who check in daily, like literally daily. Where other clients, they might only check in once or twice a week. Whatever works. But that allows me to kind of sift through it, and I'm okay with if it does create extra work until it becomes redundant. And we're talking about the same things over and over. But the other thing too, Scott, I think is you have your system. You want that information to fit your system because you're familiar with your system.
Absolutely.
So coming back to the athlete, that's part of where the athlete needs to understand. Because I've had clients tell me, well, I can't do that. I need you to call me. Well, I'm just not your guy. Like I work till 6 a.m.
Yep.
That number one. Well, you can call me we need to do messages. We need to do DMs. We're not doing that. I've done this for 25 years. We need to be on the same page. This system works, and it works efficiently and effectively for both of us if you can just get on board. But it has to work within the system.
That's the key, though.
I was just going to say, it's funny that you say that, the way this is coming out, because at the same time, if I have somebody that is just literally like, appetite is a 7, strength is a 9. Like that's the only information I get. Then after a few check-ins of that, I'm starting to wonder, like, well, what else is really going on here? Like, I need to know a little bit more about you. So there is like a middle ground in there I'm looking for. Like, I want to know who that person is, especially getting into that relationship, so I can understand, like, what's going on in their head. Are they liking this? Are they having a good time with this?
The small details. You had a guy who was an engineer who made a trailer and lived on site and did a contest prep. Like, I mean, like those are the kinds of things. Like you customize, and I think, Scott, you accuse yourself of over explaining sometimes, and so for you, I mean, you're aware of that, and so when it starts to happen, you can go, whoa, okay, that's I think I'm taking it too far. And so I think what it comes down to is how you engage with someone at the outset of your relationship. And I say it all the time. There are two things that I say every single day to myself: how you do one thing is how you do everything, and actions express priorities. And those keep me really honest to leading the life that I lead and doing it the way that I do it. I mean, I just came out of a 6-month contest prep. I limited the amount of travel I allowed my company to put on me, although they made me travel at the times that were like the most peak, like peak week and the week before peak week, which was a gong show.
Oh, God.
But at least it was domestic. Like at least it was in North America. But, I mean, so the way that we do everything, right? The way how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's all mindset, right? And it comes down to the fact that you have to stage it with a client and they have to know what they're signing up for. Like my expectation is that you are going to check in once a week. Like it boggles my mind that somebody's going to pay $1,600 for a 12-week program and they're not going to do what they need to do. Like they're not going to check. That is so weird to me. I've done a check-in every week since 2014, I think, without fail. Like I don't miss check-ins. If I'm going to Europe on Saturday, I'm bringing my suit and my scale. So I'm off season, but it still matters. In fact, I think it matters more now than it does in prep. But it's these different ways of thinking and being. You have to bring a client along and you have to set, this is what I do. And so you're setting the foundation of your reliability and your credibility in those moments when you're onboarding somebody. But if someone just fills in an online form and then you send them a program and then they're expected to check in because you sent them a document doesn't onboard someone. It doesn't build a relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
All it does is
It's
it
a
gives them
start.
something to read. Yeah, it's a start. But that personal conversation where you sit down with them and you, even a 15-minute onboarding call to just say, this is how I work. I don't want a whole lot of information, but I need enough to help make decisions. Or, hey, I really like as much information as you're willing to share, but it's really important to me that I hear from you because I want you to get value out of your dollar. I mean, we're in a tight economy. Let's be honest. Coaches are a nice to have, not a need to have. When somebody's budget starts tanking because they can't afford eggs, egg whites, or energy, guess what the first thing to go is?
Should be
Not
coach.
not the trend. It's not the trend because I can just chat GPT that and I can get whatever I want, right? And so, I would be threatened if I was a coach right now and people were jumping ship like rats because there are options out there. There are AI options. There are other people like you said, I mean, we're in an instance where you have a ton of people who are offering this and some are really great and some aren't. But if I start losing weight and I come to somebody and you're not, I mean, okay, great. So you figured out how to do calorie macro breakdowns on a website on the internet, but you don't know anything else. I'm still going to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot to lose in this equation. But again, I think athletes have to show up different. They have to come with the desire to actually do what they're paying to do and not just be part of the big Instagram movement of I'm going to be a bodybuilder because you know what? Yeah, everybody can, but not everybody can do it well.
You know what? Let me just play the other side for a second, if you guys are okay with that. I did kind of a little devil's advocates type thing. The athlete needs to understand, athlete/client needs to understand the expectations. But at the same time, you said something earlier about this is how I do it. I can't understand how other people don't do that. But people are different. Now, if we're talking about prep clients or something, that's different because you're putting someone on stage that you have a deadline. Your name, your brand is, I don't want to say at risk, but it's going to be judged every time a client is on stage. But with someone who's not, and I think this is important for coaches or potential coaches to know, and this comes back to the whole media. Why are you posting on social media? That type of thing. Who are you doing it for, you or your client? At the end of the day, this is my position, okay? At the end of the day, I don't care what anybody else thinks. If my client gets good results and my client is happy, my client is going to continue to pay me and we're going to continue with our relationship.
Absolutely.
So F everybody else.
Sure.
So I'm looking at it from a standpoint of as long as the client is happy, nothing else. It really doesn't matter. Someone else can look and go, oh, that's not great results. I've seen better than that.
That
okay,
reminds me of a coach I know who is as successful as a coach could possibly be financially. And I remember talking to him once and he said the phrase, we sell experiences. That's exactly, he's like, it's not about winning the show. We're providing an experience. And you're
Powerful.
Right. If you have a great experience with your coach, then it doesn't really matter, whether you got the trophy or not, assuming it's contest prep. It's all about the way you perceive it.
Maybe the athlete should take a note from that guy. No, I mean, seriously, we all compete to win. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But you know what? I can tell you this from working with clients for a long time with prep, and that is maybe 99% of them should enjoy the process and the journey of the struggle up the mountain instead of being pissed off every time they don't come away with the overall. They're in their best condition ever. They're better. They've improved in it, and someone shows up that is better than they are. Yeah. So, and this isn't a beat up session on, prep clients. I don't want to make it sound like that either. There are just some things that I don't like about that demographic.
Well, I
don't want to make a blanket statement, but
as a coach, you're the fall. As a coach, you're a fall guy. You can be. When things go sideways, who's going to take the blame? I do think with Nick Walker, I saw it kind of split. I saw some people were like, "Oh yeah, well Kyle, he only coached. This is the first time he ever helped anybody at the Olympia, and he admitted he made mistakes, not calculating the time of day and stuff like that." But then I also heard people saying like that it was on Nick too. So it's like it does go both ways, but I do think though that, coaches generally are the direction that the blame gets pushed. If somebody wants to start placing blame.
Well, and you look at that, I mean, that's a really great situation. Again, I come back to the credibility, right? If Kyle had coached a number of athletes on the Olympia stage, would he have been terminated as Nick's coach? Maybe, maybe not, right? So credibility. But then really, if we're talking, and of course, none of us really know, we're all speculating, but
True. Yeah.
you think about, the inside of that relationship, anything that you would have listened to him before. I mean, you guys had him on Think Big and you guys had a really great conversation. It was a fantastic conversation. And, he's talking about the relationships that he bridges people into with his mother. And, those are really good, feel good relationships, but really, how deep are they if you come to this point? So for me, I look back at it, and if you look in the rearview mirror, you can often see that intimate connection, that emotional connection was there, but it was shallow. It was more like a mud puddle as opposed to a lake or an ocean. And so when you look at, and you compare to what Aceto does, I mean, by the sounds of how he coaches, it doesn't sound like he has really deep connections with people. But when you hear about how his athletes talk about him, when you hear about how Dusty and Ron talk about their time working with him, you know that the depth was there. And why was that there? Because he has reliability and credibility. He does not mess things up. And he has done this dozens, if not hundreds of times.
Yeah. You've said two itties. I'm going to throw a third one in. Accountability.
Oh, dirtiest word out there.
Yeah, I know, right? And let's just use as an example, because you're right. It's all speculation. The two people who know what happened are Kyle and Nick.
Correct.
And outside of that, we can speculate. There are people close to him that have a pretty good idea. But when push comes to shove, Kyle and Nick know what happened. So my question would be, rhetorically, to them is, who was accountable? And to what degree? Did Nick scapegoat Kyle because he was devastated because he made a few changes and didn't follow what Kyle said? Again, I'm speculating.
Of course.
He did that and it didn't work and it totally backfired on him. Or was Kyle maybe assuming everything is going to go this way, this is how it's going, and was he not as attentive? Was he sidetracked? Was there other things going on? Did he just
make a mistake? Which is, we're humans,
Absolutely. So where was that accountability when they're both going at it? I assume going at each other, bitching and pointing the finger. Mm-hmm. And that's just me wondering,
but you even, well, yeah. And you take it and you apply that to Tuttle and Hollingshead, right? Same kind of thing. And you have somebody who has a massive amount of reliability and credibility, who has a very deep desire to have the relationship. Tuttle is, he's the kind of guy who's like, I want to be present. I want to do these things. I listened to a podcast where he was talking about the fact that he found out that his athlete wasn't eating the foods that he should have been eating that were prescribed. Right. Okay. But why? Right. And the element particularly around prep clients is that we get into our own heads. This dysmorphia that we carry around with us, whether you want to call it that or not, it impacts every aspect of how we see ourselves in the world, right? Whether you're coming into a contest prep or you're coming out. And when you're in a prep and you're days or weeks away from that competition and you're looking on Instagram because, we love to give our joy away. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so what do? We're tired. We've done all the things. We've hit the 10,000 steps. Hey, I'm just going to flip open this app and steal my own piece. Okay. And you see somebody that is on the competitors list and you start to compare yourself. Well, if your mind isn't right in that moment and you're seeing somebody, and even though you could arguably look as good as them in that moment, you don't see it. Maybe you had a water fluctuation on the scale this morning. Maybe you had a bad day. Maybe you didn't sleep well. I mean, your neurology goes on the fritz as soon as you're under rested, and even more so when you're in contest prep, and even more so when you start to layer in compounds. So the psychological impact that we have from a prep or even a weight loss, like when you take somebody who's in a surplus and you take them into a deficit to try and get them to move things forward, they're usually pretty good until they get to that, I would say 6 to 8 week mark is where you start to see the danger zone with kind of the Gen Pop clients when it becomes part of the norm. And maybe people aren't liking their Facebook or their Instagram posts as much because nobody gives a shit what they ate for lunch because it's the same thing they ate for the past 7 days. it comes down to the fact that even inside of an athlete or a client's area, that resonance is also really important. It's to focus on the right thing. And I think that there's a risk for people, particularly in this industry. Everybody wants to be an influencer. Everybody wants to be an influencer. And it's like, you know what? I'm not here for influence. I'm here for impact. I would rather nobody know my name, but something shift in the industry so that we have healthier, more psychologically safe people than for anybody to know my name as an athlete.
But isn't that kind of semantics? I mean, if you impact, you influence, right?
Yeah,
Now, I will give you this. There's a negative connotation with the influence and influencer label. I mean, I completely agree with.
I think it's distracting. I think it's distracting. When you're there for impact, it's about resonance. I'm not being there for myself. I mean,
Okay, all right.
but it also speaks to what your love language is. What's your love language? Mine is acts of service. I wake up in service every single day to the people that are the most important to me. And I love to work hard, right? I love a gold star and a hero biscuit. And that's what makes me feel good. It doesn't mean that I need my name. I don't need my name on trophies or anything like that. But those are the things that make me feel good. Right. And so as an executive leader and an executive coach, like I coach people all around the world. I coach professional sports coaches. I coach professional bodybuilders in different capacities. It's never about me, but it's about me being able to live what makes me happy and give people what they want. So even as a coach, you need to understand your why. If it's dollars and cents, that's okay. But what's your value system? Like what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? Purpose, discipline, quality, attitude, success. Those 5 things are things that drive me every single day. What's it for you?
I like that.
What are your values, Skip? What gets you out of bed?
Well, and I mean, it really is. It's a good question for anybody listening to who coaches is, again, being more insightful and looking inward and going, oh, okay, why am I posting these pictures? What am I doing? How am I phrasing this? Is this about me? Is this about the client? And it's a tough one. It's one of the reasons I hate posting pictures. Haven't you ever noticed it, Scott? Do you?
Yeah.
How many times a year do I post? 5 times, maybe?
Oh, it's that Gucci bag.
And I will post a picture of my toenails or my bag, yeah. But and that's all about me. I make no bones about it.
That's okay. It's your page.
But it's always seemed cringy to me. And that's not a shot at anybody who does it. I mean, I turn around and then I have people tell me, bro, like, that's marketing. Yeah. And I just fall back on well, you know what? I've been in the industry for a long time and I feel better I hate to say it, but kind of riding on my brand and the fact that people know me. Well, you know what?
I do the same thing.
I've been in the industry for 25 years. Not everybody knows me.
I don't post like client pictures rarely ever. I never do. And it's not because, I mean, I will if I'll reshare stuff, but I just don't. And it's almost for that same reason. I almost kind of feel like I don't want to sell myself. I feel like, but then at the same time, how does somebody know what you can do if you don't show them, right?
But you know what?
That is true.
That's me in the business world, guys. Like I've just I just had a call today from somebody that I haven't talked to in a year because they just had something go sideways and they said, hey, we need to call this chick back in. So I'm being tagged in to come in and mitigate this massive cluster. Same thing. Like I went and I put a proposal out last week and it was not because I go out and I network. I mean, it is because I go out and I network, but it's not because I'm out marketing actively and posting things on like my LinkedIn or my Instagram saying, hey, look at me, I can do X. People refer people to me. And, I have a little bit of a private PR agency that you can only get me to support you if you send me this little card. And it's all word of mouth because it's kind of dark ops, right? I mean, and that's one of the things is that it's not ever about me. It's about me living something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I love to do. And, so it comes down to the fact that I'm very credible. I'm very reliable. I can establish trust very easily with people because, like you said earlier, Skip, it's about being sincere and engaging with people and having hard conversations. That's the other thing. I think I saw something in the chat about what's the one conversation that coaches and clients should be having. And look at me, Scott. I'm a podcaster.
This is nice. That's very good.
Also it happened to come from my best friend, so whatever. But when we look at that, we need to be having the hard conversations. If you as a coach are underperforming, even if my decision is to choose to leave you as a coach, I should be having a conversation saying you're not meeting my expectations. And if you as an athlete are underperforming, then I should be having a conversation with you as a coach saying you're not meeting the expectations of the program, what's going on. And there's a way to coach and engage with somebody. Coaching isn't just filling in a form and tossing it over the fence. That's data entry. Whatever. Anybody can do that. You could put lipstick on a monkey. You could do AI. It can all happen. But what it comes down to is that relationship component. And so when you look at it, like I built a custom coaching model with a university professor a number of years ago, and you don't have to have a master's or a PhD to use it. It's seeking the opportunity, right? So, okay, hey, Scott, can we jump on a quick call? I want to do 15 minutes with you. Got your check-in, had a few questions. Can you make some time? Yeah, for sure. We're going to do a video call because 56% of how we communicate is our body language. 56%. 37% is our tone of voice. So think about that. The remainder is only what you're saying, right? Then it comes down to how do you actually prepare for that call? Don't just, pull the pin and give somebody a phone call. Sit and plan it out. What is the expected behavior and what are you actually getting? Because then what it does is it allows you to ask questions. And when you start to ask questions, you're opening the door for somebody to say, that's actually not what it is. My cat died last night and I ripped off my check-in. I didn't get a lot of sleep because I was at the emergency vet. Like whatever that looks like, right? But you're giving...
Cat didn't die though.
No, I'm sorry. No, my cat didn't die. I don't have a cat. Sorry, I realized this as soon as I said it. I saw your eyes, Skip.
Little verklempt.
But with that, then you come up with the plan. Okay, so in the future, if something like this happens, I would like you to just send me a note saying, I'm going to check in on Tuesday instead. Is that okay?
Sure.
Right? And then are we living the plan and are we coming through it? Now, what's interesting is when you have those conversations, one conversation doesn't mean change is going to happen. It just means that you've started the conversation of change. So next week you get something similar. Okay, that person's not living into it. Hey, what's going on? Now you can go to text and you can say, hey, I got your check-in. It's not really fantastic. I can't really provide you with what you're looking for. Because I think the one aspect that I do see and I recognize, particularly with prep coaches, if you do have a good reputation, you have a very full roster and you can't be hand-holding everybody who comes to you. And that is the key. And I see a couple of different coaches and how I almost see how they handle their athletes and their clients is based off of how their athletes and clients show up, right? If I show up and I do everything 100% of the time and we're getting expected results, we have a couple of stalls, whatever, I know I get gold star treatment and I go to the front of the line every single time, right? If I'm consistently late, I always have an excuse. I didn't get my workouts in. I didn't get my cardio in. I didn't do the things that you told me to do. Then what you see is coaches drop you to the bottom of the queue. And that's kind of what I see.
Yeah, I've seen that in myself. I've had people where I've had to say like, you know what, it's getting to a point where something has to change with the amount of effort you're putting in, or I might not be a good fit. And I have to say that for myself because I don't want to be a bad coach, but I will start to be a bad coach if you're a terrible client. Like over a period of time, I noticed that like I'm not as invested in you because you're not as invested in yourself. You're not putting in the work. I feel then justified that I shouldn't have to put in the work either. But then I have to catch myself and say, wait a minute, I don't want to be that guy. So let's just not do this, Yeah,
you touched on, coaches having a full roster and with check-ins and stuff like that. Something that occurred to me that I started a long time ago. It's not even right or wrong. It's just something that I started that I noticed a good response or reaction to. And that is, when people, and especially with people who are not competing, when they're not compliant, they tend to, let's just say communication decreases.
Yeah.
They're not as, they're not as forthcoming with check-ins and stuff. And a lot of coaches will say, it's not my job to run you down. You need to check in. I'm going to check on my clients. I'm going to hit them up. If I haven't heard from you and you typically check in a couple times a week and it's been a week, maybe we're going to 10 days. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drop you a quick note. Say, hey, I noticed I didn't see your check-in, hoping everything's okay. When you get a minute, check in with me. doing that over the years, I have found a lot of people will be embarrassed.
Yeah.
They'll say things that make me cringe, like, well, I knew I let you down. No. You didn't let me down. You're not letting me down. You're paying me a lot of money to do nothing. At the end of the day, that's not a bad gig. You're letting yourself down because you're not checking in. You're not jumping through the hoops that you need to jump through and allowing you, basically being accountable for, executing the plan. So my point is this. I think, this is just my opinion, but it carries a little bit of weight because I've been doing it a long time. I think if your roster is so full that you can't check on your clients, or you forget about your clients who haven't checked in, I don't think that's the mark of, I don't think it's a good trait to have as a
No.
From a business standpoint.
I agree.
There's your relationship. I mean, you're checking in with them. If I were a client and I was following up and I was kind of like, oh God, I'm really struggling over here. Maybe even just having, you got legit stuff. Maybe your cat died or something, and you don't want to tell your trainer that your cat died.
I have a strike system. I have a strike system with that. You can do that once, and I'll see what's going on. But if it becomes a habit, I'm not going to continue to follow up with it.
I agree with that. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, but that's the thing, right? Is that it is articulating that, and it's having those hard conversations. And, it's the same as people who are really emotional when they check in. Like, I had a girlfriend and she was like emotional every single time she checked in. And I was like, why are you so emotional about this? Right. And I mean, I think we all have a little, like, I don't know, maybe I'm one of the only ones, but I have a little hesitation before every check-in because I just, like I said, I really like gold stars. And so, am I doing everything I possibly can? Absolutely. Am I going to bed and putting my head on the pillow and saying, okay, you did it all today. Yep, you left everything on the court. Fabulous. But what you also find is that people who are very, very emotional about their check-ins are generally off plan. And they're lying to you in your check-in. That's what I've seen is, the only reason people who are doing what they should be doing aren't emotional. I mean, we have emotional responses.
I've had some people that just have a constant sense of like that they're not doing good enough kind of thing.
Yes,
I've had people that it's tough for them, even when they do check in, that they feel, it's like any kind of an ongoing personal thing that they may be dealing with. But I've seen it more than once. People, because when you said emotional, I started thinking of one person in particular, and I know that she's really struggled with comparing herself to other people, stuff like that, thinking that she should be further along. And I know that she does get, some level of anxiety, but she's also 110% on the plan too.
Well, absolutely. But you see that. And so that's the difference is when you don't see it and you see the emotion, that's when you have a disconnect in the program being actually lived. And so what you're now talking about, Scott, is we're going into the resiliency factors. And so that's problem solving, empathy, emotional regulation, and self-confidence. And one of the empathy it's a huge one, and it's empathy for yourself and it's empathy for other people. But then the other side of that is when we look at where someone's deficiencies are, we're all born whole. Let's just say for the sake of argument. And if you were to say, what is resilience? It's the foundation in which we are built on. And so how I help people visualize this is I say, think about a perfect piece of concrete. No cats have walked across it. Skip hasn't sketched his name into it. It's just perfect. And so when we think about that, you put this perfect little human in their little bundle on this beautiful piece of concrete. And then what happens is life. And so as infants, let's, say that, we cry. Somebody picks us up and feeds us, changes our diaper, all those little fractures come, and those masons come and they embrace them. Or they don't. That's true. They don't. And that's a whole different story, right? And so then you think about learning to walk. You fall down, somebody picks you up, or they don't. And those cracks and fractures are either healed or they're not. But then we start to get into real life. And real life starts in elementary school. I don't care what anybody says, because those are the formative years. Research studies are showing that between the ages of 4 and 12 is when our self-confidence is built. And so whatever happens to you between 4 and 12 is what sits with you until you hit the peak of your self-confidence. You are the most self-confident at 60. Because you just don't care, right? You just, right? And
there's the truth to that.
right?
Yeah.
And so
I definitely care less now than I was just telling that to somebody who was turning 39, and I was like, okay, so you're it said something about training, and I was like, well, I got 10 years on you, and he said something. My reply though was, the one thing I'll say I learned between 39 and now 49 is that I just care a lot less about what anybody else thinks. So I'll take that if it keeps going, man. It's a good feeling.
It's powerful, right? Because, I think I'm raising a Gen Z right now. My daughter's about to be 21 in December. And it's like the things that she comes and wants to talk about, I'm like, this is like, why are we even having a conversation? I think this is irrelevant. But for her, it's very relevant. And so I have to be present with her, right? And so when we think about somebody getting a fractured foundation, it could happen. And you can generally tell the age in which somebody's fracture took place based off of their behaviors later in life. And so think about somebody coming along with a sledgehammer and just coming and just going boom and knocking the shit out of that foundation. And now you're standing on rubble. And say you don't have parents who are paying attention, or you kept it to yourself, or maybe it was your parents that did it to you. I always say moms are the best, worst thing to ever happen in this world. We think about that, and somebody comes and they try and repair it. And so maybe you're standing on a foundation, but it's a little rocky. What I find in bodybuilding is a healer for that foundation until it's not. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we find strength and we find power. And I'll never forget the first conversation I had with Dr. Scott before I onboarded with him. It was a 2-hour conversation. And we got on the phone and he said, a lot of women who come into women's bodybuilding do it because they're masking. They're hiding from something. They want to be strong because they've experienced trauma in their life that has done things. And I'm like,
why only female?
But I guess because we were talking female bodybuilding, but I would suggest that it's probably accurate for a lot of people, is that we've experienced things in our lives that have made us feel insecure, unsafe, unloved, not included. And if you look at like the road to self-actualization, it's food, shelter. Like, this is Maslow's hierarchy. You've got food, shelter, and safety, and then belonging. And so, of course, it's desirable to belong, and it's incredible to belong to a community like bodybuilding, because it's made up of this tapestry of wonderful humans who are strong and beautiful and aesthetic. Like, who wouldn't want to be a part of this? And then there's the dark side of comparing ourselves, of dysmorphia, of eating disorders, of drug abuse, of all of the different things that we think about, but we don't talk about. Right? Yeah. We know they're sitting there in the shadows. And so if you're not a resilient person, if you don't have good self-confidence, or you don't have somebody who can help you with that, if you don't have empathy for other people, if you don't have the ability to regulate your emotions, particularly on the compounds that you're using, and you don't have the ability to be a critical thinker and solve problems, this industry will chew you up and spit you out.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So those are the reasons why these kinds of conversations are really important, because we talk a lot about the aesthetic. We talk a lot about the gear, about the training, all of those different things. And they work. They will always work, but they work even better. Do you want to be good or do you want to be optimal? Taking care of your brain and taking care of your emotional side, your emotional and social intelligence, is just such a powerful, powerful tool. I catapulted, a couple of years ago. I started picking a word every single year, and everything that I did focused around that word. And if it didn't resonate with that word, I didn't do it. And my word was unapologetic. And that was in 2023. It was I was coming into the 3rd anniversary of my father's passing, which was really, really hard for me. I was going through a lot of growth. And so I competed 3 times. I won 5 overall titles. And I've never won. I've always been kind of top 3, but never taken a first place. So that was really, really powerful for me. And so then the next year, I picked the word advancement. And I always take a year off between competing, because it's really, you got to grow and heal and let the body do its thing. And I picked the word advancement. And that was the year that I got plucked out of a regional kind of, national job and put into a global job. And I'm now working on 3 continents. I'm educating people. I still get to bodybuild. I was showing you guys videos of going to a bodybuilding show in Singapore a couple of weeks ago, which was crazy. Wild. That was wild. Denim model. Come on.
Yeah. That was crazy.
They had shoes and pants on, right? Like it was wild. And like the judge would be like, get ready for your front assessment and pose. And like they would turn and they would do their little like it was crazy.
So weird.
So weird. Feel free to drop that in. But I guess the whole point is you are what you say you are. You can be who you want to be, but it takes effort to be the person that people want to consistently phone, want to consistently show up for. And for the athletes and the clients, you have to put the effort in to take care of your mental well-being in order to be your physical best. Like there's just, if you're not mentally well, you're not well.
Yeah.
Can't argue that.
Hey, listen, if you could go back to the start of this and give us one take-home point for coaches to apply today and one take-home point for athletes to apply as well, what would those points be?
For both of them, it would be learn and understand your role in building trust and show up fully for each other.
I like that. That's good.
Covers
Kait,
it.
thank you very much for taking the time to hang out with us. What's the deal with this book? I know you're like not here to directly plug your book, but I'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you. So the book is called Unbreakable, From Abandonment to Abundance and the Strength to Lead. So we just refer to it as Unbreakable. That's the logo. And it is a 6-part book that is all about self-development and leadership and growth. And so it starts out with a bit of an overview of my early childhood and life story. It was not great, but, we recovered it. It talks about my weird path of learning conditional love, as well as about the people who helped raise me. My family always tells me I was basically raised by wolves, jail guards and gold miners in the north of Canada. And then we go into science. We talk about the science of all of the things that we've kind of just talked about. Actually, it goes quite a bit into detail on the psychological side, because you can apply this to business, you can apply it to your personal life. And then it goes into some business stories. And then at the end, what I've done is I've created a self-development book that you can take that follows 6 different pathways to increasing your resilience, your mental well-being, and how you harness what's between your ears to be great. And we've started a crazy movement. The book is in pre-publication, like I said. And we've got a really active Instagram page. We've got a great podcast. We've actually just launched a section on the podcast called Bodybuilding and Business.
Nice.
Because there are so many people who are business people in bodybuilding. And I think it's just a great way for us to demystify and, debunk what people think about us as just being grouchy little meatheads.
What's the podcast and what's the Instagram?
Instagram is unbreakable_legacy, and the podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. So, Scott, I finally went to video, and it is Unbreakable Legacy. So just look for this logo and feel free to follow. The other thing is the podcast is a little bit unique in that, well, on the Instagram, we have an NGL, so a private link, so people can send questions in. We answer them live on the air, kind of like what you guys do. We also do interviews with people quite frequently. Yes, and at Kait D, thank you. And then the other side of it is we're actually going to be bringing people on the podcast live to answer their questions and give them free coaching on the podcast for the things that are kind of eating their lunch. So we're always looking for people to participate and join in. We've got a lot of really great followers, and it's good.
That's cool. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Skip, do you have anything else, man, before we went?
I did a good job of keeping my mouth shut.
You did real good. I mean, I don't mind when you talk a lot, because then we always get more comments, because we get the one guy who's like, Skip won't shut up. I want that guy shut up. And I'm like, that's good. It boosts the algorithm.
I bet that same guy comments even when I didn't talk as much. No, the information was not only valuable, but I mean, I was sitting back also kind of as a viewer and
me too.
A lot of what you were saying. So
great.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on. And people can reach out anytime. Like I said, if you want to reach out to me at KaitD_DEE. I'm always happy to take questions and provide my feedback. And, I don't necessarily, unless I enter into an agreement with somebody, I don't charge the industry. I think investing in bodybuilding is a way that I can really make sure that our community stays whole and healthy.
Oh, yeah. Well, we appreciate it. And I think that the bodybuilding world overall needs a lot more of that. So I think that there will always be a place for you doing that kind of work. And like I said, you've helped me, talking about change in previous episodes. That was something that I really got on board with, looking at how to kind of break things down and employ change. And some of those ideas have stuck with me like long term, like the idea of resiliency. I see that and how important it is in myself. I see it. I can recognize it in clients, and I can recognize when clients need it, Yeah. And I've been able to have a number of conversations with individuals who maybe were struggling in certain departments and reference things that we had talked about. So yeah, this has always been a really great conversation to have with you. I very much appreciate you, Kait.
Yeah, likewise, Scott. I really appreciate this and the opportunity. And, if that would be my offer to our coaching community who's watching right now. If you have a tough nut that you need to crack, let's jump on a 15-minute phone call. Let's get a text thread going. I'm happy to help you kind of decode these folks and help increase that emotional and social intelligence in yourself as well. I mean, if we're not learning, what are we doing?
Oh, yeah, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Check out supplementsource.ca if you're in Canada. Great deals that change week to week. TrueNutrition.com. Get the Team Skip blend over there. All your basic bodybuilding supplements. They do test third party as well as in-house. There's been all sorts of talk lately about contaminated supplements. I've been in contact with them, and they're doing their due diligence as they always have. They're known as one of the companies that put out a very high quality product. So definitely buy with, by knowing that you're going to get the product that you paid for. Some of the best quality stuff there is. Once again, use our code THINK over at True Nutrition. And thank you to everybody from Patreon. We do have Patreon questions on the next episode. And for another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, go over to teamskip.com. If you want coaching from him, hit me up, McNallyDiets@gmail.com. And then we've got Kait's information in the description. And guys, we'll see you soon.